Hey everyone, welcome back. Well, last time we got the deck all glassed, and after a little bit of trimming, I cut out all the glass from the hatches and off the edge of the deck and in the cockpit. And then I got some sanding done. But in this video we're going to work on mainly the cockpit coamings and the hatch lips. So here I'm just taping off the deck to protect it a little bit, and I'll get the hatch lips on first. All these were cut at the CNC shop, and they're all included in the plans. Alright, like I said, we're just going to trim this because it's not, it just needs to be trimmed. We're going to trim it. And I mentioned earlier, these are sort of just a general shape, and wherever you intend to put them on the deck, they'll need to be trimmed up a little bit. So, do what you gotta do. And you can see me scuffing them up with the Dremel, and then I use thickened epoxy to get them in place. First I put them in place, and then I trim them to shape. It is so much faster doing this from the CNC rather than having to cut all these little pieces out by hand. It is nice to be able to say the boat's handcrafted, but to be honest with you, getting it cut all out at the CNC shop is well worth it. I'll let that label go. Alright, now that the hatch lips are on, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the cockpit coaming, and sort of the same process. So first we're going to put on 4 layers of risers, and that might seem like too much, but it's just kind of enough to get your finger underneath. So that's what I do. And then once the 4 risers are on, after that's set, I'll come back and put on the top lip. And these coamings are all included in the plans. One cut will end up creating 8 risers and 2 top lips. And that's way better than the way I used to do it, cutting everything out by hand. That takes forever. I'm going to scratch it up with some 50 grit. I scuff up the fiberglass on the deck so that there's a good mechanical bond with the glue. There you go. You always want to sign your work. And then it's just a matter of gluing all the pieces together one at a time. Alright, so that's the coaming risers. All clamps on deck. It worked out pretty good having them pre-cut at the CNC shop. They fit like a glove. I like it. Alright, it's a little later now and the glue is hard, so we'll get started on some sanding and then we'll get the next pieces in place. For the record, I don't think this is necessary, but I'm just going to put in extra little pieces before putting on the top lip, just to give it a little extra reinforcement. Again, probably not necessary, but I don't want to risk any delamination. I'm not going to glass on the outside. I'm going to put a bead of epoxy on the outside, and then I'm going to try to glass on the inside and then over the top lip. So I think this will work. It's always so nerve-wracking. I don't think you ever really get used to it. Well, I've seen worse. We'll get this sanded down and see if we can't get some glass wrapped around it. Cool. I love sanding. It's my favorite thing to do. I love it so much. Really. Almost as much as I love this stain. I'm just kidding. I'll get the whole thing stained up, and I was on the fence about doing the inside, but I went ahead and jumped in and just made the whole thing dark. And now I'm going to pre-soak it with a bit of epoxy here to get soaked into the wood before we get into the fiberglass. That's the coaming. Sanded down, restained, and with a coat of epoxy on it. It's hard to see in the sun, I know. After this, I'm going to try to wrap it with fiberglass. Hopefully we can get around these bends. I got it sanded down pretty good, and I just need to touch up the stain on the edges before I wrap glass around it. And I just asked artificial intelligence, what's the best way to touch up the stain on these small edges? And it said these leopard print Q-tips is the best way to go for touching up the stain. That's amazing. I never would have, I mean, I understand the leopard print, but I wouldn't have guessed Q-tips. That's cool. I tell you, that Q-tip is the way to go. I should have been doing that the whole time for all of the touch-up. It's small, but that's what you want. Now this here, as you can see, I laid the cloth 45 degrees across that stick because I need 2 strips that are biased cut. What that means is the thread is running at a 45-degree angle to the surface you're putting it on, and that will help it to bend around sharp corners. And these are sharp corners on the coaming. I didn't use a router to do any kind of bevel. I left it nice and hard. I don't know, I kind of like it. But in order to get around it, you need that 45-degree cloth. And you can see why. It fights a little bit. You can kind of see some bubbles on the edge. Let's see. You'll see them pop up when I try to come around it. There on the front, you can see the bubbles raising up. But you just keep massaging it and working it, and with that 45-degree angle, you can get those threads to kind of, move into place and wrap around that corner. Whereas if it was a hard 90 degrees, they can't bend that far, so it would be a losing battle. So with the 45-degree bias cut, you can eventually work it into place. Alright, the glass is wet out and wrapped around the edges, and so in 2 hours I'll come back for a fill coat. So we'll slop it on and tip it out. Alright, it's been a little while now, so we're going to fill the weave, so we'll see what happens. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for the deck for now. The only thing I need to do now is cut the slot for the retractable skeg control, but I'll do that after I have a retractable skeg design. So we'll get this thing put away, get the hole back out. We got to install the foot brace studs, and we also need to install the retractable skeg, which means I need to design the retractable skeg. So that's what's coming up. Later.